Sometimes all this world needs is a little toxicity. What is going on, everybody, and welcome to my review for the Toxic Avenger. This is a remake slash reboot of the 1984 Troma cult classic of the same name. The basic premise here is you have a janitor in desperate need of cash, winds up being involved in a terrible accident that mutates him into a radioactive vigilante, putting a target on his back for St. Roma's most vile and corrupted, but all he really yearns for is a better relationship with his stepson. If you are not familiar with Troma Entertainment, they are actually the world's longest running independent film studio, dating back all the way to 1974. They specialize in low budget horror comedies with a big emphasis placed on parody, slapstick, and an abundant amount of blood and gore. In 1984, they released the Toxic Avenger, and it would go on to be their most successful and notorious project to date, and birth what is now their longest running franchise. Over the multiple releases, they have amassed a very passionate cult fan base, which is how we've gotten here now to this new Toxic Avenger here in 2025, all these decades later. Now, full transparency, I had never heard of Troma Entertainment or the Toxic Avenger. They didn't pop up on my radar until this film premiered back in late 2023, and watching that first Toxic Avenger in preparation for seeing this new film, I really understand now why I haven't heard of them up until this point, because they just operate with a style that is just, quite honestly, not for me. Their heavy implementation of edgelord shock humor is just not my preferred style of comedy. It's not one that typically gets a lot of reactions out of me, or at least ones that are positive. However, I did still find it to be an interesting watch in like a film study exercise kind of way, because it definitely is a movie of its time, and I have to respect the distinct style and edge that they were able to establish and build their cult following through. Seeing that original film also increased my intrigue for this new one by a great deal, because while watching that original Toxic Avenger, all I could think was, how the hell are they going to make a movie that resembles anything like this in 2025? Add in the fact that it has taken them so long to get distribution for a theatrical release, and that would typically be something that I view as a bad sign for a movie, but given the type of movie that they're trying to make here and the franchise that it is in, it almost adds to the allure and it aligns with that edgy reputation that they have, so it kind of makes you even more interested in checking it out. Because of that long delay and the fact that this is being released as unrated, my feelings were one of two things. Either one, this movie is going to be absolutely awful, which can be entertaining in its own way, especially for a movie like this, or number two, it's so wacky and bizarre that the big wigs are just scared of how general audiences will react to it. Either way, I feel like I was guaranteed to be in for at least an interesting viewing experience. But what did I end up getting with the Toxic Avenger 2025, or I guess technically 2023? I don't know, whatever. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, let's get into it. As always, starting with the positives, and right off the top, this was definitely more my type of movie. I feel like it improved upon all of the things from the original that were just not my vibe. I 100% prefer the bigger focus on satire and parody as opposed to the over-the-top edginess of the original. This is a change that I expected going in, and one that I felt that they had to make, because you just could not make this movie today using that same level of their signature vulgarness and depravity. And I know diehard fans of the franchise probably don't want to hear this and are just going to say that they went soft for this one, but I think it's more so a case of there are places that the sense of humor goes in that original movie that are just not funny in today's day and age. And I know that brashness is what a lot of people love about the Troma films and Troma genre as a whole, but I'm sorry, sexually assaulting a blind woman is not something that is found to be funny today in 2025, and I don't think it's something that should have ever been found to be funny in any time period. And so there are certain things that I do feel you should not be allowed to joke about in today's society, and I'm glad that they are also aware of that and made the proper adjustments to the sense of humor and the subject matter in which they joke about for this new film. Not to say that this movie has no edge, I just think it's much more controlled and appropriate for the times. We get a great deal of satire in here, mostly targeted towards big pharmaceutical companies, predatory health insurance policies, and idiotic views that we see get spewed from the right wing of politics on a daily basis. Outside of the real world subjects, there's also a lot of poking fun at modern day comic book movie tropes. The original does its fair share of this too, taking the usual template for a superhero story and flipping it on its head. But with the surge in popularity for comic book movies that we have seen over the last quarter century, this new film just has a lot more material to pull from to make fun of. Something that this movie reminded me of, and this is going to sound like a weird comparison, but it reminded me a lot of that Drake Bell parody film superhero movie that came out a while ago. This movie is a lot like that movie, but if it was good. Making all of this comedy work is a really fun cast. Peter Dinklage does a great job as the lead here. I know we typically think of him more for his dramatic work, but he can show his comedy chops when he needs to. And for most of this movie, he's just the voice of our hero Toxie, and I liked how he was kind of able to recapture the tone and cadence of the original Toxie, and his voice is in perfect sync with Luisa Guerrero, who is actually the physical performer for Toxie. And I know because of name value, she won't probably get as much recognition as Peter Dinklage will for this role, but I think any praise that he gets, she deserves just as much, because it is these two working together that make this character what it is and why Toxie is so entertaining and fun. Kevin Bacon is the villain in here, Goo Goo Doll's haircut and all, and I love what he is doing in this stage of his career. I don't know if there's another actor out there that looks like they are having as much fun making movies as Kevin Bacon is, and once again for this movie, he delivers another signature Baconator performance. David Yao was a standout for me. He plays a homeless guy, and even with having limited screen time and getting less to do than everybody else, I thought he was the funniest of all the characters, and I was laughing at pretty much every line he delivered. It was cool seeing Elijah Wood in this as well, especially as this kind of character. He was sort of like a mix of a bunch of different Batman villains. More specifically, I got very strong Penguin from the DC series Gotham. I wish he could have gotten a little more to do, and I'll get into that a little later in the video, but I still enjoyed a lot of what he brought to the film. And rounding it out, you got Taylor Page, Jacob Chimbley, and Julia Davis all having standout moments and making solid contributions. Really, everyone just together made for a much deeper cast than I expected, and I really did enjoy everyone that was involved. Blood and gore is a big part of this franchise's legacy, and this new installment succeeds at carrying that torch. There's a mix between CGI and practical effects. Obviously, if I had it my way, it would all be done practically, but given the over-the-top cartoonish nature of this film, the somewhat low-quality CGI actually fits the overall tone of the movie, and so it's not even something that really bothered me while I was watching it. And if you need your fill of violence, I definitely think you'll be satisfied here, because there are plenty of limbs being separated from bodies and spewing tons of blood in the process. So if that's something you're looking for, you'll definitely be pleased with what you get in the Toxic Avenger. Moving on to the negatives now, and though I do feel this new film improves upon everything that I did not enjoy about the original Toxic Avenger, I do also feel like it is weaker in the aspects of that original film that I did enjoy. And what I did get entertainment out of from the first film is just the nonstop silliness of it. There's not really a single moment of seriousness in the entire movie. And there are stretches in this movie where it starts to feel like it's losing its flair a little bit and feels more like a standard, straightforward superhero movie. And even though I do enjoy the touching moments in regards to the relationship between Toxie and his son, and there still is a lot of crazy, unserious shit that goes on in this movie, it still feels like there's a lot of meat left on the bone and a lot of opportunities they could have taken to get really weird and wacky that they missed and the original movie just would not have. I felt this the most with Elijah Wood's character. He's got a lot going for him. He's got the look of a character that you should be paying attention to. The performance is really good, but the movie just doesn't give him a lot to do or as much to do as other characters in the film. And I feel like he is a character that should have been giving a lot of the movie's most standout moments, but I can't really think of a single scene in the entire film where he is the focus. And so I just kept wanting more from him, but I feel it's more of a case of the movie letting him down than anything he does wrong as a performer, which is a real bummer because, like I said, he had everything that a character needs. He just doesn't get the opportunity to shine. Another thing I was a bit underwhelmed by that the original does so well are the kills done by Toxie, or I guess the variety of kills is what I should say, because the violence is still very prevalent villain. It's just that it feels like the method in which Toxie does these kills does get a little repetitive at times. Something I liked so much about the original film is that they felt like they were really trying to make every kill be a standout moment. And in this new film, it's a lot of Toxie hits a guy with a mop and head goes off and a comedic amount of blood shoots everywhere. And it just would have been cool if we could have gotten maybe like two more signature standout environmental kills, because I expect you to lose some of that with the higher body count. There's actually a higher body count in this movie than the original, but that means a lot more of the kills are uneventful or, like I said, underwhelming. And so it felt like something was missing there. And when I've already seen it done so well in that original movie, I would have liked to have seen that been just as good, if not improved upon, like a lot of other things were for this new remake or reboot or whatever. So there you guys have it. Those are all of my thoughts on the Toxic Avenger. This is definitely more my style of movie. It's much closer to being on the same wavelength as me as opposed to that original film is. I think this is a far superior film when compared to that original. They don't perfectly nail it, but for the most part, they greatly improve upon everything that I did not enjoy about the original Toxic Avenger. As far as a recommendation goes, I can only go off of what I think about this movie, and I do think it is one that you should check out, and I wouldn't blame you at all for spending the money to go check it out in theaters. I don't have my finger anywhere close to being on the pulse of Troma and Toxic Avenger fans, so I don't really know what you guys will think about it, because I don't know if you'll be as big of a fan of this modern day interpretation of a Toxic Avenger film. But for me personally, I really enjoyed it. I got a lot of fun out of it. If you are a superhero fan, then I think you'll also get a lot of fun out of this movie, because it's making fun of a lot of those things, and I think it does so very well. It's very good satire and parody humor, not like some of the bad ones you've seen in the past. But go give it a shot and check it out. And when you do, come back to this video and let me know what you thought about it down in the comments below. Also, make sure to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel as well for more movie reviews and content. I'd love to have you guys here, and I will see everybody in my next one. Peace.